Well, hello all. Jim Murphy here. Thanksgiving is over, and I hope you guys didn't get too horribly stuffed, but I now think we are deep into the Christmas season. We just had our Christmas parade here in Belmont Shore, which is great. It's like a huge city, but Belmont Shore is this little suburb, and we're the one who has the Christmas parade. So it really feels like an old 50s or 60s local parade, and it's kind of fun. And there were lots of people who come down, and it makes for a good time. But after my last video, I want to thank you people who went out and bought my Enlightened game. Well, Steve and I's Enlightened game. And some of you actually paid extra for it. Now, you went on to d9.games.itch.io, another shameless plug, and I want to talk to the few that paid extra for it. Now, that was really interesting to me. I appreciate it. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel motivated. But, it's not going to be game-changing for me. I mean, unless Elon Musk wants to come along and buy my game company, and I'll work for him for free, we're going to struggle along to make sure you guys get the game and get out to play it, which is our real goal. And to that end, for those of you who basically paid more, I'm going to just pass that on. If you have a friend who would like maybe to play but doesn't have a computer or doesn't have the economy, even if they have a phone or a computer and they're like I think most people do, and can download it, let us know. And we'll figure out a way to let them download or send them a printed copy or something. So if they want to get into the game, somebody else has already paid for it for you. So Merry Christmas, and we'll be glad to pass that largesse of them on to you. That's better than putting an extra $10 in my coffers, because we'll just waste that on coffee. And if it's not enough to allow me to go fly all over game conventions and bring you cool stuff at locations where I could be going, that's what I was really hoping this was going to generate as far as economy goes. So there's where we're at. But I do appreciate everyone who's looked at it. I do appreciate those who are playing it. And as I said, soon, fortuitously, Itch is telling us that anytime we'll add an update, you'll get a notification. So if you've already bought it, that notification will come up to you. So that'll be the bestiary and the magical items and whatever new other bits and pieces we throw in there until we decide to make some other maybe more elaborate group game. Anyway, I have a feeling this is going to be a pompous video. Now, I don't mean it to be so, but I can't think of any other way to basically start it than to tell you that. So please bear with my pusillanimity. I'm sure that's not a word. I want to talk to you about why and how you should DM, thusly the pompous. When Matt Colville interviewed me, he stated very nicely that I was the best game master he had ever played with in his years, which I thought was maybe hyperbole, but it was very nice of him to say so. And to be frank, I'm a really good DM. I'm really good. And there are reasons for that. And I think Matt sort of tried to ferret a lot of that out in our interview to basically come to the point that I wasn't just a bard. It was something that I had put years and years of work to. And it's true. But I want to talk to you now about what is important in the gaming and how to run your games when you run them so that you can become every bit as good as me. And believe me, that's not going to be hard, because truthfully, as I sit here in this chair, I have met tons of people who were fabulous DMs, many who I thought were substantially better than me, more than likely because they had a better brain pan, but whatever the reason, they were able to project a better game. I just had the full package, the miniatures, the tiles, the whole skill set that I had put together. Plus, I created my own campaigns and adventures, which I always think is the advantage, which I have told you. But I will tell you the true secret and what made me become a great DM and what drove me on to continually improve my skill set all the time. The real secret of role-playing is really this. One, if you can, play with real people live. The reason for that is the simplest reason. It really isn't about the game. It's about the people. I mean, there are a million games out there that you can play with people, and we did in the 60s and 70s. There weren't any role-playing games, so we were playing board games with friends and alike. And these were people that you met because you had an interest in these games. But then suddenly you gamed with them and you find out, hey, they're kind of nice guys, or they're nice girls, or whatever the situation may be. And you enjoy spending time with them and playing with them. So you want to continue to do so. And thusly, the advantage of gaming in person with people is what the true value of the game is. I've stated to you that basically all the friends I have that I see on a regular basis game. A couple don't, but then I make a big effort because they're local and they are longtime friends, and I'm secretly trying to pull them into gaming so I can get them to come game with me and have more of an excuse to see them more frequently. That's really the most important part of the game. Doesn't matter what genre you play, there's a lot of great genres. You can play Star Wars, Starguard. You can play, anything. You can play Expanse, which I think is a great game to play with Traveller. I mean, I think Traveller is Expanse. Someone who wrote the Expanse series had played Traveller because it really mirrors that together. It doesn't matter if you play Cthulhu or any other, type of game, any genre, anything. I mean, you can grab miniature board games and turn them into a role-playing campaign. I've done it. But the thing that's best about it is you will build relationships with people. Much harder to do online. I noticed that last month when I hurt my foot and I was laid up for quite a while and not leaving my house, and everybody has those little boxes that had that they can text with and stuff. And I think basically for 2 weeks, other than my wife and my pets, I actually had not talked to anybody. Everybody was just texting back and forth or messaging back and forth, or I'm going online and reading their comments on Facebook or any other system. And I realized I'm not interacting. It's just like, oh, cool, yay, you love it, whatever, and you move on. But that's not the same as sitting down and having someone talk to you about what's going on in their life, and you being able to help them, and you being able to talk to them about things and spread things. And it improves both of your lives, but more importantly, it also produces your relationships, and it makes your gaming better. Now, that's number one. The number two is the important thing. When you sit down as a DM, you've created a game, or you've taken a module and you've done what I think you should do is just modify it to suit what you like to do. Reskin it, add more things here, take things more away. That'll be based upon what you think is the level of play that your players want to have versus how much they're going to want to role play versus how much they're going to want to use the mechanics to combat. Now, I don't care what system you use. It really depends on the game you want to play and how you want to play it. I mean, I would love you all to be playing, my D9 games, Enlightened, but truthfully, there are great systems out there. Matt Coville's producing a really good one, and I'm looking forward to it. I've told you about my feelings towards, Wizards of the Coast, but that's just because of the economy involved, and I don't like what they're doing to change the dynamic, which may be inevitable. But I mean, you can get Fantasy Trip, a perfectly great game that is available. I mean, I'm sure Steve Jackson Games would love to sell you Fantasy Trips or GURPS, which is their non-copyright infringing Fantasy Trip, because initially he couldn't get it's a mess. And I think I've already mentioned it in a previous video. But it's a good game system. The system almost doesn't matter. Traveller is good. It's so simple. I've talked to you about Star Wars. I've talked to you about everything else. There are lots of great things out there that you can play with, but the point of it always is the same, is you need to be able to, as a DM, even if you're using a module, to be able to tailor that module to what the players do, and more importantly, what the players are going to want. Because your job as a DM, as I've said, is to lose with panache, but more importantly, you want to make it a great time for all the people who are playing. Now, you don't want to say this. I mean, you want to be evil, the evil DM, if you're behind the screen or whatever. Oh, you lost your character, it's horrible. That's not what you're doing. What you really want to do is make sure that for the time and effort they've put into the game, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever, that they're going to get more value out of it than whatever they can do with something else. And that is on the DM. I mean, if you prepare and you read modules and you're all happy with it and doing great, go. But I'm playing a game right now with a good friend of mine who's a great DM, but he said something. He goes, well, I kind of wanted this in my campaign. And he, said what he wanted and how he wanted the campaign to go. And I'm thinking, that's wrong. As a DM, you don't really want You want to set the stage and make the players all think that this is all what you want to do, or what the world is, or the module, or whatever it is. But the true point of it is you want to make sure that they have a good time, that they have a good adventure, that they have a fun time and enjoy it and think that this is more fun than they can do with everything else. I run into so many people who, I mentioned I play role-playing games and D&D, and they say, oh, I played this and I played that back in the day, and I played this, and I always ask them the same question. Why did you stop? It's like, well, I outgrew it, or, it wasn't as interesting, or my friend moved away, or, there's a million reasons. But the real kind of reason is they didn't get that out of the game. They got the game, they enjoyed the game, and they played it because it was fun, or maybe their friends wanted to, or maybe their girlfriend wanted to play, or their boyfriend wanted to play. However they got involved in the game, but they didn't have a chance to have the experience where the DM curates the game around them. Of course, saying this because I will deny it if you ever say to anybody I told you this. But that's what you do. Sometimes you got to dumb it down, ease it up. Sometimes you got to pick it up because these guys are big into the mechanics of the game. And believe me, if you throw a basic module at them, they're going to open the door and wipe everything out. And you're going to be like, okay, that wasn't much. You've got to think of what the level of challenge. Now, that'll take time for you as a DM to sort of pick that up. But you can start out, and then it's all a matter of learning from your mistakes. And that's why I'm a great DM. All I did always is learned from my mistakes. When Matt Covill interviewed me, he was really surprised that when he asked me what the biggest disappointment I ever had as a DM, and I said when I broke somebody's heart. Where I prepared something they had no chance of surviving. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but now we do. So now if you break somebody's heart as a DM, you always have to find a way to fix it. Now, the fix could be like something that really cool Matt did, where he killed a character and they say you wake up and you're a ghoul now in this undead lord's lair, but you still have your total mental faculties. So what are you going to go do? And now this ghoulish hero is going to go save the magic user who had been captured and become a hero. Now, I don't know how the outcome's going to go and how well the ghoul's going to be accepted in the future. I never heard that from Matt, but the point there is that's exactly it. You turned a loss, a downer into your game, into a win. We have a situation in all of my friend Don's games when he runs it, that because he's running, usually a period of Greek or Roman or, Egyptian mythology, there really isn't a whole lot of resurrection and stuff like that. So you have to go down in Hades if you lose a character and find them and pull them back out, or bargain with the demon himself, or get by Cerberus, or all the things you might have to do. And a whole major campaign adventure takes place on rescuing back a lost character to fix a problem that maybe shouldn't have happened or wouldn't have happened, or you can't live with now that it has happened. We've done that in all our games. I've lost many a character, but I've never really lost any in a manner, well, unless they were very low level, in which case, if they're just starting out, who cares? Boom, I can generate another character. But you get into these campaigns where you've been running for months, in some cases years, and something happens that you don't expect as a DM. I don't want to salt by sitting behind the thing and say, oh my gosh, the monster dramatically missed you. No, you got killed, or whatever. But we'll find a way to fix that on the cutting floor of the film. And that means to go back and modify things or provide them with options. I've had parties captured where they had to fight their way out of the dungeon with nothing but a loincloth made into a sling and fleeing through the rafters to save the way the game goes. I started my new Enlighten campaign with starting level characters. The most low level in the party. I didn't expect they wouldn't get wiped out. Well, they didn't. They survived. They actually got an enlightenment. It was kind of cool. They did a lot of cool stuff. They were learning more about the world on the other side, because where they started out in the south before and kind of were more familiar with the Fae, they started out in the north here, so their encounters are mostly with the Fomorians. So now you're dealing with trolls who are looking at you and going, well, we were allies against the elves. We should be allies again. Hey, we're willing to help you and back you. And suddenly all these people like down in the south who are trying to maybe cut your throat or steal your stuff, these guys are willing to give you something and help you out and help you down the line, because they want to use the humans for forget. Don't pretend I didn't say that. They were not cannon fodder. I swear they were looking to depend on them as loyal allies. The great thing about role-playing games, from a game master's point of view, when you have control of the game and you're running the game. Now, they're like, Matt has showed you, you made a game, or I've showed you and I've made a game, or you're doing a module and modifying it up to fix whatever they did in the previous module to make it different in the next module. Great. That's what you want to do. And then you want to make the games as fun as you can. Leave your ego at the door. You don't want to win a game of role-playing. Guarantee it as a game master. Worst thing you can ever do is make the players think you were out to get them. You know, it's like, oh, well, you just wanted to kill our characters. Really? I mean, it's like, I can always drop a rock on you anytime I want. Of course, that's not what I want to do. But unfortunately, sometimes if you portray it a certain way, people will think that to be the case. So really what you want to seem like is the arbiter of death. You are that dark hand that is leading the things through, and then suddenly if you make a mistake, maybe bad things happen, and bad things should happen. But maybe, you know, at the last moment, the goblins run away. Well, why do they run away? Well, you were kicking the butt kick out, shit out of them. Yes, they could stay on and maybe kill some of your fighters or characters or whatever, but that would mean more losses to them. And at some point, they reach a point where they don't want to die. Most things are that way. Only undeads are the implacable foe. That's why I find undead sometimes the most fearsome of enemies, because in many cases, it doesn't matter how many of them you kill. They keep coming. And if you don't control the battlefield, and then they have a large, big vampiric or necromantic lord, you'll kill a boatload of them, and the next morning, they'll all be there again with all the ones they killed of your guys. So it gets really bad. But that is the thing to learn about gaming. And all of that is a learning experience. Don't shy away from it. You know, if you say, look, I don't feel confident in this, then get somebody in your group who is more confident. If they're not, as Matt says, don't worry about it. If you've got a bunch of people who don't know anything more than you, they're not going to know what you're doing anyway. So if you do this and you throw this, they're not going to know that wasn't the planned adventure, that you've created a new adventure within that because you want to keep the campaign going, because you like the characters, or you like the way they're role-playing, or they're invested in the characters. All of that is very, very, very important. And this is where you take being a decent or good DM and turn it into being a great DM. Because they never think it's you. At the end, they save the day and they've beaten your monster. And they're like, yeah, we killed that guy. That lich died. It was hard, but we were able to overwhelm him. Yeah, you were. You did it. It was great. It was all your doing. And it always is their doing. Maybe you massaged around the corners a little bit, but that's really it. That's why, like I said, I never cheat a die roll, because I never want anything. I never roll behind a screen, because I never want anyone to think that I'm overtly cheating. I want them to think that I'm maybe massaging the game a little bit, but that's usually an acceptability. We talk about situations where it did that. Just, things like we had an Uliog who attacked the party, and they were getting munched, and they were running out, and as they got to the entrance of the dungeon to leave, they realized that they were in a Sturgy lair. They had, oh my God, we're going to get killed by the Sturgies, because they were trying to lead this Uliog into a trap where some of the walls would fall on them, and they were hoping it would slow them down. They were in bad shape, and they looked like they were going to get wiped out. They got into the main hall. This giant Sturgy lair was there, and all of a sudden the Sturgies come rolling out, and the party goes, oh, we're dead. Sturgis is going to finish us off. The Uliog, between the Uliog and the Sturgis, were dead. And the Sturgis came roaring down through the group and right past all the party members, because the Uliog is a huge bank of blood. And they only want 5 or 6 points. And they can sit there and just get their 5 points and go bail. Well, they don't have, the Uliog can only make a couple attacks at them. And it's too busy fighting these other bigger opponents who are theoretically more dangerous. So this is a free ride. Well, the Sturgies made it possible for the party to escape. And that was something they didn't understand, because I had made this dungeon, like I make most things, a real place. The Sturgies don't care who they drink. And the Uliog has got a lot more blood, and it's a lot easier target. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do what is best for them. Now, do you write it that way? Well, no. The first time they came in, the Sturgies attacked them, because that's all there was. But this time, you look at it as it's a real world with real creatures that have real feelings and wants and desires and anything else. And they're going to do the most pragmatic and practical thing for them. That's it. All these things can be added on. I can tell you example after example like this of things. You can make the game harder or you can make the game weaker, just depending. The Murphy-York trap was always because I had good groups of people who were really sophisticated with the rules, and I needed more help. So often the Murphy-York trap would be there to ensnare them. Oh, it's a simple attack, orc and ogre, and how we get, oh my God, now we got more behind us, and suddenly they're coming through the walls, and it's a problem. And that made it fun. But they still won, or most of the time they still won. And that's what you want as a good game master and working to become a better game master. I mean, if you're still not confident and you have people who are confident, enlist them. I mean, when Matt Colville was running down for his people over at one of his game companies he worked for, he asked me to come mambo his monsters. And I said, sure, because he had a huge group, and you've heard this, and I ran him and I mamboed him, and it worked fine. It wasn't Matt couldn't do it, but it took all that weight off of him of having to do that as a DM and putting it on someone else. Kind of why we invented, D9 to be the way it is, our enlightened game, because all the dice are rolled by the players. So it's really kind of fun. The DM can concentrate much more on the strategy, tactics, what's going on in the game, what's happening, everything else. He doesn't have to actually stop there and then, all right, I roll, I hit, oh, I take 7, oh, I roll, I hit, take, it really should be a situation that if you have a lot of really skilled and honest players, I can just tell them what's happening, and I could walk away and pour a cup of coffee, and they could run the battle without me because they know what the things do. I put the little, chirp charts up, and they can see what the monster stats and what they're going to do, what their motivation is, and it's like bing, 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 bing. It's not hard, and you're not robbing them of something. What you're doing them is you're giving them a chance in our game, in my humble opinion, the opportunity to have a much faster game, which they control a lot more of. Well, do they cheese it? Maybe. Will they bend it in their favor? Most likely. But that's what people do. People always try to look for an edge. And sometimes it's just an edge to get your goat. That happens too. And you can deal with that however you feel like. But understand, it's still the fact that what they're trying to do is have a good experience for them. And you want to help them on that thing. Everything you do. It's like they said, why magical items? Magical items don't necessarily always mean a lot in the game, but they're always something exciting to get. You can sometimes build the whole character of your PC based around some cool magical item he gets. Well, I didn't plan to be this, but now I got this item that does this thing, and well, I'm going to start doing that. I remember I had a character who was a fighter, and he picked up a holy sword, and he died in the adventure, and they put him to bury him at this little chapel, and it resurrected him as the paladin. And it's now I've got this really low paladin with a really badass holy sword who he has to grow into, because the sword's like, who are you? And what makes you think you can carry me? And it's like, well, I'll just put you in my backpack here. And if you think I'm good enough, and eventually he proves himself, and thus the sword accepts him. That makes for a whole dynamic that nobody would have ever expected, but it made for a good campaign, and eventually a really badass cleric and paladin. Now, I've yammed on this a lot, and I wanted to, just give you this idea. It's easy to do. More importantly, if you don't think running the mechanics are easy to do, and you don't have it on a list, get a module, read the module, modify the module a little bit so it makes it more sense to you, and then just start playing. You'll get better, you'll learn more, and if you are with your friends at the end of a game, go, hey, can we go out for coffee real quick, or maybe a late night snack at some late night restaurant, and you can tell me what you liked and what you didn't like about my games, and they're going to be all excited to help you because now they feel they're adding to their campaign and adventuring as well. And that's it. They'll all learn from you, and you'll learn from them, and eventually, like I have, you'll have groups of super seasoned DMs and players who love the hobby and have become my best friends over years, and we would do anything for each other and have. And that's been important. Parts of my life have only existed and been saved by the really good friends of mine that I acquired gaming. So I've wasted enough of your time on this, and please don't tell anybody that I told you these secrets, because you gotta seem mean as a DM. The voices are good too. Anyway, until we have a chance to speak again, have a really Merry Christmas if I don't do another video between now and then. And fight me devils fight, because I hate peace, and game on. Happy holidays.